he developed a philosophy that really challenged the Sudan, initially not believed by either the South or the North. He said that the problem of the Sudan is not one of the South being dominated by the North. It's one of a country whose identity has been distorted. It's a country that is basically an African country that should have been enriched by various inputs, including the Arab Islamic input, the Christianity of the West and all of that, to form a country that was enriched by diversity, but instead has been distorted as simply an Arab Islamic country whose perception of identity, their self-perception, itself distorted, so that the people who are a mix of Africans and Arabs saw themselves simply as Arabs, and in a sense denying their African component, but worse, projecting this as the framework for the whole nation. A nation which is not only diverse, but where the Arab element is in fact a minority. And so for him, it was not a question of the South seceding. It was a question of transforming the Sudan so that it is reflective of the realities of the country. And therefore, the cause of Sudan Liberation Movement was the liberation of the whole country and not just the South, and to create a new Sudan that would be freed from any discrimination based on race, ethnicity, religion, culture, gender included. This vision, this new vision of the Sudan began to tear down the barriers, the walls between North and South. The peoples of the North, who were identified all in that one rubric as an Arab Islamic identity, those of them who were non-Arab and who were being assimilated or subsumed began to see that they had been misled by a distorted sense of country's identity. They began to identify themselves with the cause of the new Sudan. And what you see then in the Sudan was not just the South leading the rebellion to transform the country, but the non-Arab northern regions adjacent to the South in the mid-80s joining the struggle of the South for the new Sudan. And then the people of the East, the Bija territory, neighboring Eritrea and Ethiopia, also beginning to rise up against the central authority and its distorted sense of identity. What you now hear of Darfur is the latest version of the regions of the country beginning to threaten, to challenge the distorted sense of identity for the country. The Darfurians started in 1991-92 in an uprising that was coordinated with the South, but it was premature. In fact, they were advised by Southerners not to rise then because they had not prepared the ground and that would be too dangerous. But they were impatient. And so they rose and they were crushed decisively in 1992. It took another 12 or 10, 11 years for the Darfurians to rise again in 2003, which is the crisis you hear about in Darfur today. It's not an isolated crisis. People tend to see Darfur as obviously one of the worst crises in the world, but they see it in isolation. They don't see that this is a process of the Sudan painfully searching for itself, that it began in the south, extended to the Nuba Mountains, southern Blue Nile, extended to eastern Sudan, then to Darfur, and even the people of Nubia, just south of Egypt, who represent a very great civilization that the continent of Africa is proud of, but who became distorted in the image of an Arab Islamic country, are now trying to get back to renaissance of their civilization and beginning to assert their pride in their Nubian heritage and identity.